you are gonna see some cool ass shit.
Yeah, you don't want two Flavor Flays.
Heart transplants, brain surgeries. I've seen it all.
Dude, that's fucking dope.
Walk up and just get it, whatever it is.
Yeah, brother.
I'm trying not to laugh, bro, but Josh is fucking killing me.
Guess what Navy SEALs do, motherfucker? They communicate and they're on the same fucking page.
Whoa.
We're live.
Welcome, everybody, to the Happy Hoodlums podcast. It's your host, the very big, powerful, buff guy on the left or right of your screen. I don't know.
Left.
For me, it's left. But yeah, losing his neck, got to choke out while he's describing himself. Zach Sampson!
Hell yeah. That's me.
Yeah. It's Kemper Woodruff. Should already know. But if you don't, now you do.
If you don't know, now you know.
Welcome back to the show, baby. And, yeah, we're just rolling for another episode. Right on through these bitches. You got anything on the top of your mind, Zach?
There's not really anything to talk about, but I do have something if we feel like we either need to start with something or to fill the space. So if you got something ready to go, let's rock. But I got something locked in the chamber for if we have a quiet moment, we don't have something to talk about.
Okay. Well, I definitely have stuff to talk about because I tell you what, I've been downloading so much real estate knowledge in my brain. I swear to God, I've been watching videos and doing stuff from about like 10 a.m. to like 4:30 or like 5. They had me watch like 6 back-to-back,
damn,
like month-by-month breakdowns of like the real estate market over the past like 6 months.
Okay.
And it was like incredibly inspiring the way this dude talks. Also, he's the most New York guy ever. So I love listening to this dude because he just sounds like, you know, someone that would be hanging at my uncle's house. And so I learned some statistics that blew me away. I actually have my book in my backpack. So I'm going to kind of spitball it until I can get it.
Do your thing.
So I was blown away by this statistic about like wealth and how important home ownership is to like generational wealth.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd never seen any figures on it. And so check this out. They were talking about the gap in net worth between renters versus people that are homeowners, expressed over time. Because there's a census done called the consumer or the study of consumer finances. They do it every 3 years. And so in 2010, on average, homeowners had a greater net worth than renters because their net worth on average was $187,000, right? Compared to renters that on average had a net worth of $5,400, $5,400 compared to $187,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the low end of this graph because that's 2010. That's like, you know, 2 years after the huge housing crisis and kind of like things still being in recovery, right?
Yeah.
Now, you play that out over time, and in 2022, homeowners had an average net worth of $396,020 compared to renters that had a net worth of $10,400.
Okay.
So in the beginning, like in 2010, there was a $181,600 difference between the net worths, right? And for the like 2022 year, the difference was $385,000 or $800,000 difference between the two prices. Um, and I was like, what the fuck? It's amazing because anyone that's like renting because they don't have the equity of like paying a house down and getting more ownership of that house, um, and actually having that asset, whatever it's worth for you, you know, in your portfolio and kind of attached to you. Um, so that is like a game changer for people. And I was like, damn, I don't know how much of this is just like people with a broke mindset, because they're stuck in a renting situation, and people that haven't like ever really owned anything or seen anything owned versus people that have and are beginning to live that, or if it's just some basic economics, right? But then I saw another graph, right? I've just been drinking in the graphs today, I tell you what. Um, so, first of all, did that make sense to you?
It did, but like the only thing that like gets me is like one, where are their statistics coming from? Are they averages or are they like because it has to be an average. So all of a
It
sudden
is an
that yeah, so like what if you have like 50% of New York renting an apartment, but like you have to be making like $5,000 a month to be able to rent in New York, you know? And so it's like not some of these renting like situations, it may not even be that people are broke. It may just be like the fucking average is wild, you know?
well,
Because
no,
like
it's like
they're
there's
taking
a
the
portion.
average of all of the renters in America and then they divide that by how many, like how
Yeah,
averages work. So it's like they're taking the lowest of the low and the highest of the high of all the renters, and so it doesn't really reflect like the wealth of every single renter or all renters just in general.
well, you got to look at it this way. Like, so net worth is like everything that you own,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, you're paying rent that might be equivalent to a mortgage payment,
Hmm.
right? Or somewhat similar, maybe a few $100s difference. Um, but you're not seeing that like that person's lifestyle might not be that radically different from someone who's on like the low end of like a homeowner spectrum, because that might be the most expensive thing that they own, you know, a house and then a couple cars. That's pretty normal. But still, what you're seeing not seeing is like that person's getting so much more money back at the end of the year, like when taxes come around and things of that nature. And so this other person is like keeping themselves in this cycle that's just going to lead to ever more poverty, where they might just live somewhat similar in the beginning years, but that gap over time is going to change things dramatically. And you're just looking at like one generation, because the next like graph or thing that kind of blew me away, um, was how dramatically different it was, uh, for people whose family never owned a home, right, are highly unlikely to get into like home ownership and business ownership in
Mm.
comparison to people that have owned a home. And it was like a crazy spike difference on these graphs. I didn't wind up writing down like the details on
Yeah.
it. But just seeing those things kind of side by side and how it correlates, it made me just like so happy to be selling real estate and like giving something that's going to impact people's families for like truly generations and generations to come,
Yeah.
like solely off the back of like one asset. And
As long as they
uh
like manage it properly, it all comes down to if that specific client manages that asset appropriately.
yeah, but on average, like even if you didn't manage it that great, right, like I'm not saying it's going to equate to like an illustrious quality of life if you're a shitbag of a person, right?
Yeah.
But there's no reason in splitting hairs on that, right? Because hey, there's nothing you can do about that in terms of being in the position I'm in, like selling you a home. But from the standpoint of selling you a home, you got to look at like most people are going to take good enough care of that home that it's
Well, that's not what I
still
mean.
like
I mean
a valuable
um,
asset.
like not taking care of the home, but like, are they managing what that asset gives them, what it provides for them? So like, um, are they able to stay on top of their mortgages? Are they able to do they have to fucking refinance, or do they take out a second mortgage and then that kind of shit? Like, are they using it appropriately to build wealth, or are they misusing it to not build wealth?
Well, I'm happy that you brought that up, Zach,
And I'm
because
not
it just
saying
so
you can use I know you can use mortgages and shit. Like, that's a thing too, but but you get the example that I'm trying to fucking
yeah.
throw out.
Well, I'm just saying, now that we're talking about kind of lifestyle, there was a graph for that as well. I'm
Of
telling you,
course, a fucking graph. There's
I
always graphs in these
went through a
fucking
labyrinth of
whenever there's money
perfect.
involved, there's a fucking graph.
Yeah, brother. But dude, if you had some New York narration, you'd be like, "I fucking get it," you know.
I
And so,
fucking get it.
you know,
I'm
you got
walking
Joey
it.
Diaz breaking down a graph to you, dude. You're
These
buying it.
motherfuckers,
Okay,
they were broke.
you got the point, right?
Yeah.
And so I was looking at another graph where they were talking about the mortgage payment to like income ratio,
Hmm.
and how basically a lot of what the news was promoting, they were drawing numbers from years that we were getting like a 13% uh like ratio, and
Hmm.
that's insanity, right? 13% of your monthly check being able to cover your like mortgage payment, right?
Yeah.
That's a outlier statistic, you know? And so of course, things being compared to that kind of like golden age when things were in like the low teens is going to make this seem really unsustainable. Um and there's other things to factor in with inflation too, right? About
Hmm.
just like the cost of living. But in terms of like mortgage payments and things like that, right now we're in like the like I don't know, upper 20s, kind of on the cusp of like low 30s. And the dude was showing, he was like, 20 is a pretty ideal level, but 25 is like pretty much a sustainable spot to be at, um in terms of like economics and looking at like the housing market being stable, not super volatile, and affording people the ability to get a house at a reasonable interest rate as we're seeing like the rates continue to drop,
Hmm.
right? So we're not too far off from things like really taking an incredible uptick in terms of like availability to get into a home, although there's still like half as many homes being produced as a quote unquote normal or like sustainable market supply
So
would
what's
have.
the what's the interest range that puts us at that like 25% mark?
Well, that stuff's gonna come down a little bit, and it's probably gonna be right when we break into like the fives that we're gonna see the market like light up, even if it's in like the high 5%, because a lot of people aren't scared of these like 6% rates anymore.
Single
Because it was like
digit, yeah.
8%, and
Oh
then it
shit.
came down to like 7, and it's
Yeah.
on the decline right now, and it's projected to kind of break into like the upper to like mid fives, hopefully by the end of the year. Which would make it available or like able for people to make that kind of like monthly payment that might not have been able to otherwise. And they also have like down payment assistant programs and things like that that are available that I haven't really even scraped the surface on. So I'm not going to go into that. It was just something that they kind of flicked out there and was like, yo, as a broker, you need to really like be up on this stuff so that way you can provide something that can change somebody's family. And really just looking at it in that like honorable way of like helping people,
Mhm.
not trying to just like be a sleazy car salesman type of dude that's like, yeah, I just want to sell this house to get you in a home. Like, no, it's not. That's not what real estate professionals are supposed to do,
Yeah.
right? Um, we're supposed to basically be kind of like a shepherd to help like guide people from getting lost in the wilderness, you know, and eaten by the wolves, so to speak, so that way they can step up their lifestyle and living situation, lead them to a greener pasture to live in, little lambs. But um, all weirdness aside, it was just a fascinating kind of like deep dive that I went into where I was like, oh shit, dude. Like, as we get into like these 5% rates and everything,
Mhm.
if you have a home, right? Because there's still such a like low supply, you're gonna be in a fantastic spot to sell your house, dude.
Yeah.
Like absolutely fantastic. Because you're gonna get more for it. Like there was another statistic in here that I had seen about like going back to like 1991 and about like the average of all three of like the West Coast states and like the housing prices. So um home value has changed since the first quarter of 1991, and this study was taken at the end of the third quarter of 2023, right? And it showed that West Coast states had an increase of 351.1% home value. So, like, when you think about it, you might have bought a house back in the day that wasn't worth all that much. You know, you might have paid like 300, 400,000 for it. And now when you start to look at this, you know, all figured out in reality, you're sitting on, especially when you take down the equity because you paid so much down out of that house, you don't owe that much, right? So you can get a lot of money and be able to, you know, get another home for yourself that's a huge step up and not
Yeah.
really even, you might not even need a mortgage for
That's
what
kind of
you're
what
looking
my
for. You
parents are
might,
doing. They're
yeah,
they bought their house, I want to say for under 200,000, and then
yeah,
they got it appraised, I want to say maybe 5 years ago or more. And it was
yeah,
like almost 3.
mm-hmm,
And so they've talked about like selling their house and finding a different one and
yeah.
changing locations and shit like that. And I'm like, fucking, if you can sell your house for $100,000 or $200,000 more than you bought it for, that's a fucking win.
And I mean, when
So
you're coming with cash to the table for your next deal or whatever, if you're trying to upgrade your life or
yeah,
whatever, dude, you got terms kind of like more in favor of you than
yeah,
anyone else in order to make a deal for someone because they know that you can close on it like right away, which just makes it super easy for a seller.
yeah,
But yeah, just learning some of like I know these are like the basics. These aren't even really like the nuances
yeah,
of housing is fascinating. And it amazes me that we aren't taught more of this or encouraged to know it.
hmm,
Like going through school, and so many families don't know it because they're just renting, right?
yeah. And that's
And
kind of like part of the like issue of like schools aren't really teaching really important shit for the modern day. It's not like they haven't upgraded. And so
yeah,
like I had one class in high school that taught us like I don't even remember the name of it, but it was a class for seniors
was it
and
economic?
it probably was. That's the name that I thought it was in my head, but I wasn't sure, so I just didn't say it. But um in that they had us do like play this simulation game that you started from the bottom and you worked your way through, and it was mostly a fucking taxes thing because there was really no like roadblocks in the simulation. Yeah, your apartment or your house or whatever might get robbed, you might get fired, but like for the most part you can pretty much find the right path and fucking get through it.
Yeah.
And it was really only teaching us how to fill out W-2s because after every year in the game, you had to fill out a W-2 and submit it to the teacher. And so I'm like, this is like the only thing that you taught us how to do in high school was like write MLA format, how to solve for X, and fucking just how to write a W-2 or how far away the fucking sun is. Like, I don't know. I feel like it definitely starts at the education system, and there's a lot of things going wrong with it.
I definitely had a cool assignment. I remember in 6th grade that was involving economics, where everyone, like, we had a ton of newspapers that got like brought in, and you had to find a job in the newspaper, right?
Ooh, okay.
And then you had to factor in what that job will provide for you, and then subtract out like how you're gonna live, and look at it like over the course of time.
See, that's
So
the
that
type of
way,
shit that they should be teaching people. That's essentially a
yeah,
budgeting course.
yeah,
And
and
so,
it was trippy because it's totally hypothetical.
yeah, but it still helps.
I still remember what I chose too, because there
What'd you
wasn't a ton
choose?
of good options. I was a Hyundai salesman. So, little Hyundai, baby. Come
Oh,
on.
dude, you were gonna be a sleazy car salesman.
I was, dadgummit.
And now you're fucking selling
Man,
houses, you
I,
fucking sleaze bag.
yeah, found my way to a more honorable profession in my life. But see, I don't know. It just seems that I'm always going to be selling something, no matter what. Because I started with gumballs, you
I
know,
think that's just your mindset, I'll be honest with you. I
or
think you
just
just
medicine.
have that type of like, and like it's all it there's been people like that since the fucking beginning of time. Otherwise, fucking farmers would be nothing, and all the food carts that lined streets for centuries would be useless too. So it's like it's pretty fucking dope
I
because
think,
it keeps shit moving.
I think I'm somewhat of like, I'm naturally a service oriented person, but I'm also like a creator, like an inventor. Kind of have like
Okay.
a crazy streak to me, like one of those guys.
Okay.
You know, I think that's why I'm somewhat of an extremist. And I can't even say that. That's the most like middle of the ground. I'm a fucking extremist. I'm
Yeah,
coming
you
clean.
aren't kinda.
Yeah.
You're
All
either
right.
all in or you're all not. Like
I was down 100% how I am.
yeah,
I'm that guy. So
he is that guy.
yeah, learning balance, and like it's interesting because there's this is like a weird kind of training for me to like observe things
Mm.
and have to try and decipher like where the middle ground is. And it's a cool game for my mind because my mind doesn't typically work that way. You know, like I've being an extremist, I'm looking at this end of the graph and like this end of the graph. So like,
Yeah, you didn't
where is
even
it
look at the fucking middle.
at its craziest spikes? And I
Or
didn't really
where's the
see like
most consistent spike?
yeah, I didn't see like the beauty in the middle of it, you know. And
Yeah.
so right now, this is teaching me how to be like the middle of the graph kind of guy.
Damn straight. That's what's up.
Yeah,
If
and
go ahead.
I've also noticed that it's great training because like Jim Rohn had a speech. And if you haven't listened to Jim Rohn, incredible motivational speaker,
He's
go
got some good
watch his
stuff
stuff.
out there.
He's really funny too. Just
Old
kind of
school. It's like
quirky,
black and white. Old.
super old school. But he said something to the effect of like, rather than wondering what a job is going to give you or pay you, think about what you're becoming as you do that job, the kind
Mm.
of person you're becoming. And I noticed it as I've been, like there's a lot of aspects of my life that I've been trying to kind of get together all at once,
Mm.
but it was definitely, I was kind of all over the place and scattered because I'm such an extremist, right? And this has like an extreme intensity to it, but you have to be like even keeled. You can't be scatterbrained. You have to be like, it's bringing an organization and like a disciplined aspect to my everyday life just by doing little things like having to make sure that I'm shaved, you know, making sure that my clothes are like more presentable rather than just throwing on whatever and like rushing out the door,
Or all
you
fucking
know?
like wrinkly and shit.
Yeah, yeah, just being like ultra presentable, which is all aspects of the me I created and dreamed of being as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
dressing in like flashy kind of ways and like I don't know, just a classy dude cuz I remember my grandpa, having all these suits and things cuz he worked um and him and my uncle I think both worked on Wall Street,
Oh
you know?
shit.
Yeah. My grandpa sold insurance for a long time, and they would send him over to like Europe. That's how I got like my tie collection of like all these handmade, like kind of one of one European ties and like
That's
suits
sick.
and things like that. Yeah, um, and that kind of got me into like dress clothes and fashion because I always loved like mob movies, and even
Yeah,
though
who
like
doesn't?
my grandpa wasn't in the mob. He just looked like a mobster,
Yeah,
because he's just Sicilian to the fullest.
that's great.
Yeah,
We've
yeah,
shown pictures of your grandpa on here before, but he was fucking jacked.
yeah, dude. Frank
So,
Ficara, shout out.
oh yeah, Frank motherfucking
That
Fakara.
that silver era of bodybuilders are just such men too, because they're straight out of the Great Depression, you know,
Yeah.
and World War I into World War II, kind of like they were just rugged, different kind of dudes back.
Yeah, I think everybody was fucking built different back then, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't
But
know.
it's interesting because my grandpa was low key like super shredded
Hmm.
before that was a thing. Like in the beginning of his bodybuilding career, he was like super, super lean cut. And most people didn't have that level of like definition. And as he kind of like matured through that, he bulked out a little bit more and got a little bit more round
Hmm.
and like a little more polished look rather than being kind of like chiseled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been having
But
a
yeah,
lot of
even
fun
just
in the gym, bro.
what you been doing? Hit me with that.
Well, so like today, for example, I woke up and I was like, you know what? I want to do a sled based workout.
Hmm.
And so I went, and this is not gonna be like a glamorous story, by the way. So
Zach.
I went in and I'm like, all right, sleds. So I'm gonna do sled pushes down and back with some uh kettlebell overhead press for my first like set of shit. I did those back to back and I recorded my last set, and directly after that had to run to the bathroom because I puked. And
Yeah.
so I'm 3 sets into my workout, sweating my absolute ass off, and I'm puking in the bathroom. I spend like 5-10 minutes in the bathroom, and then I go back out. I get a piece of gum because obviously I'm not gonna fucking walk around with pukey breath all day. And so I start working out again, and it
Mm.
takes me a second to get back into it, but I felt fucking good. For some reason,
Is that-
it doesn't happen often, but after I puke during a workout, I feel so much fucking better.
That second wind is strong, bro.
Yeah. And so
You
I
get
went
that
from
adrenaline out of your system. It's good, bro.
exactly, bro. And
Yeah.
it's weird because like right before you puke, there's always like that level of fucking, oh my God, what is this feeling? And then you start like, it's like panic almost. And then, because especially with like dry heaves right before, if you dry heave, that's the worst. Because then you know there's more coming. And you're like, oh, fuck.
I've
But
never been a dry heaver. Dude, I'm
I
straight like
usually don't unless I'm like,
out. Ugh.
unless I don't have food in my stomach. Like I did today. I didn't have a whole lot of food in my stomach. Um I usually don't dry heave, but today I was like my stomach did not have anything in it, and so it was like not wanting to come up. But
Hmm.
so I did those. I did the sled pushes and the overhead presses, and then I went and did sled rope. It was like a, you know when people go like side to side on a cable machine like this? Fucking
Yeah.
I did that. So I attached a rope to the sled and I just yanked it down the fucking turf like that. And then I did
Hmm.
supersetted with uh tire flips.
Dude, those tire flips are gnarly. I've seen
I
you
love
doing
them.
them at the gym, and I'm not gonna lie, I haven't got into tire flips yet. Even though I've really wanted to, I've
When
seen so many people, and it just looks like the most agonizing thing. I'm not gonna lie, I totally like weenie out on that one. So,
it's not though, but it's honestly like the funnest thing. I enjoy it so much. Here's why.
yeah.
It simulates a deadlift, but also at the same time protects your back.
Hmm.
And so, but also what you can do, it's one of my favorite glute exercises now. You wouldn't think a tire flip is a glute exercise, but if you stand wide enough apart and you
Hmm.
get your hips underneath you and then as you step up, you squeeze your glutes and force your hips through, bro.
Yeah.
If you if you turn it into like a hip thrust, pretty much like a kettlebell thrust, it it becomes a glute movement and it's so much easier.
I can
They're
dig that.
really fun. So when we start training together and I'm trying to teach you the deadlift kind of like setup, that's probably going to be one movement that I throw in.
Well, dude, good glutes is actually good for business.
Yeah,
And I noticed
because
this,
bro, you
dude,
yeah.
no one wants to buy anything from you with a flat ass.
I know if you got pancake
Yeah.
if you're if you if you're if it's flappy in the back, like who wants to see that?
But that's one thing that was really funny because I, my legs got bigger way faster, like way faster than I expected when I started like going to the gym and kind of
Yeah,
easing myself into like squatting and just trying to rehab my back. I was like, I have to do some kind of like hack squat or something. And so I started with really light weight, and as you know, I did like a ton of like reps. But as I went up in weight, my legs got big quick, and all of a
yeah,
sudden, I
bro.
started trying to like put my pants on, and I was like, dude, like I can't do this. And so now, like wearing dress pants that are like cut kind of different, dude.
Yeah,
Like I was like, whoa.
like tailored
I was
dress
like,
pants.
yeah, like I used
Yeah,
to look like just flat as a board, and now I'm like, all right, like I fill out all my dress clothes. I look like a smaller version of my grandpa. I'm like, okay, I'm on the right track.
you know what the so when people talk about skipping legs, here's some things that you need to know. One, your legs are your biggest muscle group. It doesn't matter in terms of like legitimate just muscle mass, your legs have the most. And so, which means for anybody who wants to burn calories, you're going to be burning more calories when you use your legs. Um, on top of that, because they're the biggest, they look better, bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if you do them the right way, which is mostly dependent on who you are, because like some people don't grow their legs very well from like leg extensions and need squats instead. So it's like it just depends on who you are and how your legs operate. But for the most part, most people can get really big legs. You just gotta fucking put in the time. And everybody looks good with an athletic ass. So if you got a butt that looks like you can jump, you look good.
Well, it was something that I didn't expect, like a lot of girls to be like into dudes' butts because it just seems so like random and
it
weird.
seems weird to us because we're like, what the fuck, a dude's ass? Like,
but at the same time, like then you're chick and you're like, yeah.
you're thinking about it from like a straight point of view. You got to look at it a little gay.
Yeah, dude.
So.
Real gay.
If you could learn one thing from me, what would it be?
Like in terms of exercise?
Anything. Like if there's something that you see me do or something about me that you wish you could learn, what would it be? And it doesn't have to be a factoid. I'm saying a skill or a mindset, a philosophy, a specific exercise, or whatever it is.
You know, I really like who I am, and this is a cocky answer to start. But if I could kind of like download one aspect of you, it'd probably be like your organized like stoicism. Where like
Okay.
I'm a very like expressive emotional person. Like just naturally. Like, even when I'm trying to like hold myself composed, like people can walk up to me and be like, "Oh, you're fucking pissed," and I'm like, "What? Like, how did you know?" Like, because I thought I looked like a normal person just walking around with like a plain face, but apparently I have like clearly,
just pissed
distinguishing
off
emotional ranges,
Yeah.
which is a rarity, but and maybe that's why it's a little easier to tell. But I've noticed that's one thing about you that I like.
That's hard to tell what emotion I'm feeling.
Well, yeah, dude, you just kind of walk up like kind of like the same all the time. And like it's got to be something really bad for me to be like, "Oh man, he's hurting." You know? But even at that, you like hold it in, and like other people don't know. Where like for me, they're like, "Oh, he's crying over there. Like, look at him, he's crying inside right now." Like, so I guess there's that aspect of it.
Okay.
And I'll save this for another podcast with a guest we got coming on because there's something else
Word.
that I wanted to ask you. But I'll ask you.
Well, this episode is gonna come out. Oh yeah, it would come out before. We're pre-recording our episodes now, guys.
A little bit, a couple of them.
A little bit. Some of them we're actually gonna live stream them, but
it just depends.
It depends. We're actually gonna live stream all of them, but we're pre-recording the live streams.
I don't know how the fuck that works, but Zach's on it. All I know is right now we're both really busy with a lot of stuff, and so anytime that we can sit down and bust out a podcast and give you guys some more content, that's something that we're interested in doing. Yeah. Especially because we're both learning a lot and trying to take what we're doing here with Happy Hoodlums a lot more seriously in terms of not only the quality but the quantity of what we're producing on all fronts. So we got to get this podcast thing a little more dialed in, and we're off to a good start this year for season 3.
Damn straight.
Um, that way we can kind of hit you with other products, because we've definitely got, a lot of backpack ideas and work that we've put in that just hasn't come fully to market yet. So things to come.
Facts.
Um, but one thing that I was gonna say that kind of merges the two topics we've been talking about all day
Okay.
is working out at work. Like, because I was sitting there and I was like, man, this is a lot with like the onboarding process,
Mhm.
and I don't want my brain to get so zapped that I'm not doing this with like full levels of awareness and enthusiasm, because I think those things kind of go hand in hand. And so I also don't want to just fall off from the progress I've made at the gym.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm just going to do a ton of push ups. So I probably did like over 400, close to like 500 push ups today.
Damn straight, bro. That's what's up. Here's check this out.
Yeah.
When I was like still relatively like new to the gym, but it had
Hmm.
taken me like 2 years to get to benching one plate. So
Hmm.
135 pounds. Took me like 2 years. And what got me there was doing 100 push-ups a day as fast as I possibly could. And so at one point I got under like 3 minutes, I think. And after I did that for I don't know how long, I fucking blew up and started hitting 135 like it was nothing.
Yeah.
It was
And I
nice.
mean, you also weigh more than me. So in doing that, that probably really helped you
Oh
a
yeah.
lot.
Well,
That
no,
was
back
all
then,
kind
dude,
of,
I only weighed like 150.
yeah. Okay.
So still right around the same.
Yeah.
Maybe still a little heavier. I don't know what you're at right now, but anyways.
I haven't jumped on the scale in a few weeks, but well, actually more like 2 months almost since I
Damn.
weighed myself last.
I
I've
was
been avoiding it.
180 the
I don't. I
last
don't
time I
want to.
weighed.
I don't want to. I've been looking in the mirror. I'm like, yeah, I'm still like holding the weight well, but you never know. It might just be upper body weight. I feel like my thighs got a little bit smaller because I haven't been squatting like heavily. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, you know. So that's kind of just like a psychological me thing, and I don't have a scale at my house. So, but I do admire like your honesty in telling how long it took you to get to a plate, because
It might have taken me
um,
longer than that, honestly.
it's weird. Like, I know when I was in high school, dude, like getting to a plate was like a big deal for skinny guys, right?
Mhm.
And yet my friends were like benching way more than that. And it's just like, you know, um, but I got in there and I started and worked my way up, and it was probably only like 3 weeks to a month, and I was
Mhm.
able to like start working with it. So I've noticed that like my body adapts quickly, which is cool, and it kind of always has. Um, so I'm really interested to see what happens and how it feels like going back. And I think like I'm gonna do an alternate thing where I'm gonna do like push-ups generally for like upper body, and I'm thinking I'm gonna bring some like 30-pound dumbbells because I think I have an extra set downstairs. So bring those into work so that way I can do upper body stuff and then switch and do like lunges or something like that,
Yeah.
um, throughout the day, just to kind of keep myself A on that incline, and B definitely like dialed in and focused. And I'm hoping that other people eventually kind of see it, and maybe, that might make an impact on them and how they handle their workflow. But everyone's like nose to the grindstone where I'm at. So I don't know. Maybe it'll just be me
Maybe you'll
doing.
inspire some people. Who knows?
calling people on the phone and doing jazzercise at the
Yeah.
same time.
1 and 2, 3, 4. Double time. Fuck.
Kind of a goofy thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, it's definitely I feel like it's also really good to learn things in a fast-paced way from time to time. Like
Yeah.
some people,
Like
you know,
sink or
they
swim kind of
want,
shit.
like, yeah, you need to be thrown into a situation like that.
Yeah.
And it just staying in a environment where everything's tracked, like there's tons of statistics and everything. I was like, wow, this is a beautiful way of like becoming more accountable and more disciplined and like really having to create a better, more consistent workflow and like way of life, around that. And that's why I was like, oh man, this is part of like becoming a highly successful person. It's all the stuff that you have to do just to like get through the day and not ruin yourself, trying to like scramble and do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So definitely, definitely extremely happy with
Hell
that
yeah, dude.
process.
I'm glad you're enjoying it so far.
Yeah, dude. And it was like a long time coming, you know?
Yeah, you were working on that shit for like 2 years, 2.5 years, something.
Yeah. So
That level
rocking
of
and
not
rolling.
give up is awesome. And I'm learning from that. So I appreciate you.
Well, thanks, bro.
Yeah.
I've definitely learned that from you too. Like even in other ways, like just seeing you come through with like all these different aspects. Because now, where can you find this podcast? Tell the people.
Oh. You can find it on obviously YouTube, Spotify, uh Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, and Audible.
We're out here. We're fucking out here.
And
All
our
right.
Patreon's
So
fully set up if you feel like helping us out.
yeah, come support what you love. Like
Word.
if we give because we give you guys our best, and it might seem like sometimes we're just like spitballing it because sometimes we're spitballing it,
Yeah.
but honestly, we're coming from the journey of our own lives and trying to take everything that we're learning and recycle it. And so, best believe we're going to get more organized and structured with this too. Um, but it's cool to kind of be able to see this journey, learn with us, grow with us for those that have been with us, and where we're going in time when we look back on this. It'll be a really cool thing, and you're gonna get some souvenirs out of it along the way.
Facts.
So, if you want to support, we love to give back to you for anything that you care to give, not just on the podcast, but with some cool knickknacks that we've made, and we're moving over so we can get some designs all put together, and that way we can finally hit y'all with some clothing. Print to
Boom.
order, baby.
Damn straight. So
So
we're
you
gonna be
heard it.
doing some shit. We got new content stuff. I'm working on a process for the clips and shit for making those. So I'll get that fucking sorted out.
Yeah.
So we're hitting 2024 strong, motherfuckers.
Yeah. We're doing it.
We're doing it. Look at me, grandma. Oh yeah.
But I think that's all for tonight, everybody. We love
Hell
you.
yeah.
Hope you have a great evening. Keep hustling. Keep doing your thing.
Word.